I want to take you back to 2001 because you had won the Super Bowl with the Rams and following the '99 season, and you decided to retire again. Obviously, you and Carl Peterson, have ties dating back to the '70s. Why Kansas City? Why that time? You'd already retired for like 14 years before going back to the Rams. So why did Carl just dress it up that much for you? And how did it work?
First off, after a few months after retiring from the Rams, I recognized that I probably shouldn't have done it. It was an emotional decision. My family wanted me home. We were able to do something that we'd always tried to do, is win a Super Bowl. I also had a trophy on my back desk here behind me when I was Coach of the Year first time, and everybody on it had been fired after winning the Coach of the Year, and I didn't want to end up one of those guys, and the opportunity to go out on top and turn a program over really ready to play well to somebody who was doing a good job like Mike Martz sounded like a good idea. It was a mistake. I don't sit, wallow in my tears about it, but the reason I went back is Carl Peterson and Lamar Hunt. And Carl and I are very, very close. And Lamar Hunt, I had great admiration and respect for him. He's the number one owner in the NFL in history, in my opinion, in all the overall qualities. Humble, allows general managers and presidents to run the team, coaches to coach, and enjoys every minute of it. And he asked me permission to come into a team meeting. I said, Lamar Hunt, you own this team. You own this team. And to work with Carl, I have admiration and respect and love for Carl Peterson. I've known him since he was a kid, when I kept him on the UCLA staff when I took the job. And he's always done a better job than I thought he would. I mean, he takes a great job but makes it better. He did the same thing in Kansas City. And what he did there, I don't know if it's totally appreciated, but he did a wonderful job for Lamar there. Now, they didn't win a Super Bowl or many playoff games, and that's how everybody is evaluated, based on a few ball games. But over the time, he did a wonderful job in Kansas City. And something, guys, Kansas City is a wonderful city. Yeah, they have passion as they do in these other cities. They're not quite as intense. I don't know if they have a mean streak like some cities have, and I enjoyed the 5 years there probably as much or more than any city I worked in, because of the people, because of the ownership, because of Carl Peterson, because of the players. Yeah, look at this right here. That's a Will Shields shirt. Okay?
Yeah.
How can you do any better than a Will Shields?
Absolutely.
So it was a great experience. The Eric Hicks, the Trent Green, and all these people I'm still in contact with. Casey Wigman, these guys, I'm still in contact with them. They're like my family, those guys are. And Willie Rofe, my God. So it was an experience that went beyond my own expectation. My only disappointment is I didn't do a good enough job or help people do a good enough job to present the Lamar Hunt trophy to Lamar Hunt, because he deserved it long before now, and Andy Reid came in and got it done, which I love the guy.
Well, we got so close back in 2003. That team was so special. You built a record-setting offense here behind a lot of those offensive linemen you talked about, whether it be Willie Rofe, Casey Wigman, Brian Waters.
Brian Waters, my God, man's man.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Tony Gonzalez,
you built that offense,
Priest
and
Holmes.
It was something. You developed Dante Hall into a dynamic player, into the X factor. Just kind of take us back to that and your kind of idea of how you wanted to build this football team. Obviously, you've got Al Saunders to run the offense. He's familiar with all this. And then your buddy Greg Robinson's on the defense. And the defensive side never quite caught up. And that's kind of where we fell short there. And that's, that happens. That's football. But just kind of take us to that.
But, our defensive drafts just didn't go as good. I probably screwed them up as much as anybody. We didn't, we draft the number one kid and then he doesn't show up to training camp. Remember him? Doesn't show up to training camp. When does shows up, he's out. He's 20 pounds overweight and fat. So we worked him out to get him in shape. The first game he gets in, he breaks his arm. So we lose him for a year.
Ryan Sims. Sims.
Yeah, Ryan, and we thought he was a fine prospect, but it just never got out of it. We never got anything out of it, really. So that hurt us, and a couple other choices we made, it didn't end up being good choices for us. And that hurt us. We could never get the defense anywhere close to the quality of the offense. The offense over that 5 years, period. You take all the numbers out, and they were the number one offense in football, thanks to Al Saunders and Charlie Joyner and Mike Solari and these guys. They did a great job coaching those kids, and I just appreciate them and respect them very much. And we worked hard. We worked very hard. But you can only outscore so many teams.
Right.
Sooner or later, it catches up with you. We couldn't play. If we would have been matched up against somebody other than Peyton Jordan, my God. Peyton Manning, other than Peyton Manning, we might have been able to excel and go on all the way into the next one. We weren't a good matchup because of him. We just couldn't rush the passer hard enough to prevent him from throwing accurately, nor could we cover efficiently enough to prevent him from beating us. No, that's still the only playoff game in the history of the league that no team punted.
No punts. Yeah.
And we score and get the long run and a fumble. And I think Priest Holmes had about 147 or 170 something yards rushing. Oh, yeah. We did, but if Tony Gonzalez gets a touchdown pass call back for shoving off today, that would be a joke. It wouldn't be called. Okay. But
all these painful memories, Dick.
In 2005, we had a playoff caliber team.
Sure.
But 2005, if that 2005 team gets in the playoffs, as we played the last 6 or 7 games that season, we're a contender. We win 10 games and don't go. I mean, I'm glad they're changing the rule, finally changing the rule. But that was a good football team. It was you never know once you get into those things. There are teams that have won the Super Bowl, had 9 wins. Where were they all season? When they got in the playoffs, they were better. We had 10 and didn't get in. Yeah. And I'm still a little pissed off about it.
Yeah, I know. The Steelers got in. Yeah. Yeah, the Steelers got in that year over, I think, on a tiebreaker, and they wound up winning the Super Bowl. Yeah. They were the other wild card team that took our spot. So that shows you how crazy it is.
All the more power to them. Yeah, that's the way it is.
We talked about 2003, that playoff game, the no punt game against the Colts. When we scored, Dante Hall had the return. Did you think about kicking an onside kick? What was the conversation like? You kicked it off deep to Peyton Manning.
It's a good question. I was never really aggressive in that kind of thinking. If I went back today, I might be more so with analytics and all these different things and all the coaches trying these things on 4th down and different things. Eventually some of that rubs off on you. I was more the old school, do the most obvious right thing now and don't gamble. If you want to gamble, go play poker somewhere, because if it was a sure thing, they would call it sure thing taking rather than gambling, Yeah. So I didn't, but I think today, if I were to do it over, I would consider more change up things other than the basic routine of handling those different situations.
Do you think Trent Green gets enough credit because he threw for 4,000 yards 4 consecutive seasons? He's the Chiefs give up a first-round pick to get him and the second-round pick to get you in 2001. So those were our first 2 draft picks, you and Trent Green. Just talk about him as a person, as a player. He's turned into a tremendous broadcaster for CBS, and I know you know a little something about that as well.
Well, I have great admiration for him. This guy, I'm very close to Trent. We stay in touch, and I know what's going on with him and his family and his boys and all his daughter. He's very close to him, and and I of course had him at the Rams. We'd have won the Super Bowl with him. I think I really believe that. Very fine player. That's why we gave up a first-round pick to bring him there. Right. I don't know how many people would have done that. Thankful for Carl and Lamar Hunt allowing us to do that, but he played well, and I can't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame there yet. I just cannot understand what a guy has to do to prove he belongs there. But sooner or later, they will acknowledge it. Brian Waters went in last year, and yes, he belongs there. But Trent's a very special player. In all the players I've coached in my career, he would be right up there with the number ones. And when you put a total package together, regardless of Hall of Fame, regardless of All Pro, regardless of pass percentage, you put it all together, he's an unbelievable package. Great package. You know that.
Yeah,
we certainly do. Going back to a certain game in 2002, you start off the season in dramatic fashion against the Cleveland Browns, and here in Kansas City, that game is known as the helmet toss game, where Dwayne Rudd thought he had Trent Green sacked, takes his helmet off, tosses it, and then you see John Tate lumbering down the field. Morton Anderson gets to kick a game-winning field goal on an untimed down. What do you remember about that game, the back and forth between you and the Browns?
I couldn't believe it. I was involved with the Miracle, the Meadowlands, okay, in 1978. So something good is following me around, I'll tell you that. And, I always feel sorry for the other coaching staff in those situations. There's a little humbleness about that, because you know how you would feel if you were in the same situation. You win the game and lose. Hard to win the game and lose. Cleveland did it. New York Giants did it. And I respect the coaching staff and the profession. And to see that happen, of course, I'm glad it happened for our team. And it's obviously we didn't quit playing, or else we don't win it. We didn't give up and say it's over. But you always feel a little sorry for the other guy within that atmosphere. It's, that's unique.
Well, we did ask Dwayne Rudd to come on the show a few years ago, and he responded with 2 words, F you. So
yeah.
we never, that's still pending.
Is that the name of a university?
I think so.
FUC?
Coach, we got to ask you about, it's been over a year ago now that we lost Gunther Cunningham, who you brought in 2004 to run the defense. He comes back to Kansas City after being the head coach before you. And you bring him back in after having to reluctantly fire Greg Robinson and just talk about Gunther, how he was as a coach. He was always just so intense, and he's just such an impetuous guy. I've always just, talk a little bit about him, and it's been a tremendous loss.
Well, I go back with Gunther when he was a young assistant coach in the West Coast in college when I was. So, so I've known him a long time, and I knew Carl admired him and respected him, and he did what he thought he had to do, and then brings me in there, and I'm not getting it done. And Greg Robinson wanted to end up being a head coach in major or a head defensive coordinator and a head coach in major college. So he goes to University of Texas, wins a national championship, and becomes a head coach of Syracuse because of it. So he got what he wanted out of it. We brought Gunther back. I had no problems bringing him back. He had no problems coming back because he trusted me and I trusted him. I liked his passion. We didn't surround him with enough good players. And his style of defense, too, you've got to have a few dominating guys on the line of scrimmage. Of course, everybody does. But with, as aggressive and intense as Gunther is and was at that time and always was, really, as a young coach, maybe even more so, you need the guys that can that dominate the pass rush. And we had good players, but we didn't have the dominating pass rusher that you need to be successful, especially within that scheme. Again, the next year we played a much tougher schedule the next year. And early in the year, we didn't score as many points later. But in 2005, if you look at our schedule, the last 6 or 7, we beat like 5 playoff teams in a row. Yep. That's hard to do, including New England Patriots. So that's hard to do. And it was a pretty good football team by that time. And our defense was playing better by that time, But anyway, we just didn't surround Gunther and that staff, Peter Junta, and those guys with enough quality, high-end Super Bowl quality players.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go back to your time, we know you're close with a lot of your players, but 2003, X Factor, the human joystick, Dante Hall. Oh, yeah. Talk about that year he had in 2003, returning kicks in 4 consecutive games, Steelers, Texans, Broncos, the reversing the field. Yeah. And then he did it against the Ravens twice after the first one was called back and they re-kicked.
Yeah, well, to me, he's the finest ever. If he'd have stayed in the game and kept his head in the game, and for some reasons he left Kansas City, he goes to the Rams, he gets banged up 2 years in a row, and he gets disappointed and hangs them. I stay in touch with him. He drinks Vermeil wine, okay? And I stay in touch with him. He's a father of 3 wonderful kids, and he's doing well. But I think he gave up the opportunity to be the number 1 guy in a potential Hall of Fame kick returner, because regardless of what these other guys have done, he was, I think, the best combination of both. The punt and kick return guy. He could, like I used to say to him, Donnie, I don't care if you return it for a touchdown. That's really nice. But just bring the ball out so when our offense goes on the field, they walk straight out in front of the bench. Right at the 50, I'll settle for the 50-yard line anytime. Great human being. I watched him mature. He's a great dad and parent. I have great admiration for him. Yeah. We stay in touch.
Well, we have such great admiration for your time here in Kansas City, and we can't thank you enough for jumping on with us today. Definitely got to ask you about Patrick Mahomes here, just the specifics about what makes him so great. You had a great quarterback in Trent Green, and definitely a pretty good one there in Kurt Warner and St. Louis as well. And Ron Jaworski, a guy we know pretty well back in Philadelphia. So talk to us about Patrick Mahomes, what makes him so great, and if, how amazing would it be to be able to coach a guy like that just has all these intangibles and arm angles? And
Well, I say, first off, he's got it all, and he's with the right coach. He could have it all, not be with the right coach, and not know he has it all.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened. Okay. And let's see what happens with Brady. Okay. Let's see what happens as he goes off and away from the Belichick regime. But Andy Reid's never had a quarterback who couldn't play. Now, he's never had one that could play like this guy. Okay. Because of his innate talents. And he does things you can't coach. You know, just like Kurt Warner did some things and made some throws, you can't coach him to do it. You know, you can't predict that sometimes in the draft. There's probably been as many great high draft pick failures at quarterback position as any position, real disappointments. But Mahomes, when Andy moved up, I'm thinking, who's he? You know, well, he proved who he was. And, you know, Andy's never going to take credit because he can give credit to everybody else. But Andy made a great move there. And he's destined, staying healthy, to be the finest ever because he's got things along with the innate accuracy. He's got other innate things you just don't coach. Andy can't coach it. I can't coach it. Vince Lombardi can't coach it. He's got it, you know, and to keep him healthy, surround him with the right people, he's going to win some more world championships.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. And they tell us that the running back has been devalued, but those Chiefs teams with that dominant offensive line, Jason Dunn, pretty much a sixth offensive lineman, is backup tight end.
Great.
Tony Richardson leading the way.
Ever been around. Yeah.
Yeah. Priest patience, allowing blocks to set up. Do you think the devotion to and the execution of the run game still has a place in today's NFL?
Oh, yeah, sure. You know, tell me a running back isn't valuable when you hand it off and he goes 60 yards for a touchdown. It's still 6 points. I don't care if you throw a 60-yard touchdown pass or a 60-yard touchdown run. It still counts the same. And I think you got to be very, very careful of underestimating the contribution of a great running back. Now, there's a lot of good ones, not a lot of great ones. I think the 49ers will bring back the true running game to the NFL. And you'll see more people follow their lead. They're a downhill running team. They come off the ball. The offensive linemen have weight on their hands. They knock you off the ball. They don't try to open the holes or horizontally. They open them vertically, push you off and move you. They get onto the second level. They're mobile, tough, and they run the football. And see, now the defenses are so used to everybody throwing the ball 45 times, 50 times, and running 20 that I think they're going to start a trend. I really do. They're coming back to how many teams used to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their run game was strong last year, and they're just going to continue their ways. And you've been so gracious with your time here, Coach. Just one last thing before we let you go. When the Chiefs were looking for a new head coach after 2012, Clark Hunt called you and Marty Schottenheimer to ask your opinions. You were said to have given him three names: Bill Cowher, John Gruden, and, of course, Andy Reid. Take us back to that time when Clark called you and asking about coaches, and then when Andy ended up calling you as well, asking about Kansas City.
Well, you know, I don't want to take any credit for it. You know, Clark Hunt did this, and Clark made the decisions. He asked a question, and I gave him those three names. And he said, those other two guys I don't think want to coach. And I says, I know Andy Reid does because I talked to him, and he's a friend, and I know he wants to coach. And you just couldn't hire anybody any better. And I also said, I don't think you can afford to go any other direction. You know, you've got to get a guy that's done it before. And, you know, Clark stepped up and did it. They met and talked. Andy called me. What do you think? I said, take the job. That's as long a conversation it had to be. Take the job. There's no better place or better people to work for.
Yeah, and I think John Gruden might wish he still wasn't coaching, and maybe he made a mistake there. He was gushing over Patrick Mahomes during his quarterback camp. Then he's like, oh, no, I'm back in the division. This is going to be a long decade. So, Dick, can't thank you enough. I'll tell you what, we've got our Vermeil wines coming, and it's not going to be I know you tried to give Morton Anderson a bottle one time, and the league stepped in. The league is going to allow this to go through. We're going to get the wines, and it's going to be all good.
Do you know who the Vermeil wine best customer is?
Who?
Morton Anderson.
That's incredible.
He buys our magnums, okay? Now, I don't know who drinks them with him, but he's a great wine guy. You know, Trent Green and Todd Collins are limited partners in my wine business.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, yeah, they're a piece of the action. Of course, we have no action. We're in the hole. But other than that, we're going to get you again. I hope here in another week or two.
We're going to get you some, Coach. Everybody go to vermeilwines.com. It's tremendous to have caught up with you. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll definitely have to do it again soon. Thanks so much.